My name is Jermaine. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Um, Yo, this is cool shit right here. This is really cool. But before I even get into anything, I just want to take a moment of silence. For some reason, I feel the presence of Sheldon, and I want to give space to that right now. His spirit is really like touching me right now, so I want to give a moment of silence. Thank you. My name is Jermaine. Yeah, I don't know. This is dope. I'm enjoying this. I'm excited. Daniel, I love you, man. So, Marty, what's up, man? I don't know if we ever met. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you to all the speakers. Daniel and I got a similar background, in terms of how we met, which is so crazy. We got a crazy story. Yeah, but here's the deal, man. So step 2. Sheesh. I came to believe that a power greater than me can restore me to sanity, right? And so, I read the book, right? I read the book. And it's like there's parts that are like pretty precise, they're direct. There's some that's like ambiguity, right? So like step 2, it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of ideology behind the second step. And like when I was new, I had this sponsor, like he was dope, right? He can carry the message, as we say. He was a man that's, stood in confidence. And like what he taught me early on was that we agnostics is step 2. And I believed that for a long time. And then as I continue to read with others, I kind of evolve into a different belief because the big book doesn't give me step 2 direction anywhere. There's like phrases that kind of elude to the God idea. Like they tell me that, I got to believe in God, etc. But the directions is what the book kind of like really positions. And so step 2 for me gets interesting because I come in here and I'm like, yeah, we agnostic, that's, what I'm saying, step 2. And I'm looking at all these ideas from the book, etc., etc., etc. And so for me, what happened was, I don't know what year it was. I was running through these meetings and I was like, kind of like bashing how y'all went through the work. And then like if you misquoted a line from the book, I felt sometimes inspired through a creator to come behind you and correct you from the podium, because I was part of a group, man, that really, really studied the book. We had this passion. Some of you guys call that being on fire. But there was like a sense of like oneness with the message in our experience with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was fun, right? Because it was things that we actually identified with. So when I get here, right, I come in here with the tenets of religion, and it's like, yo, I don't need to come to believe any of that stuff because I know God very well. Like, I'm the guy who used to like study, like, and translate language and like connect old to new with the word. And lack of power is my dilemma. And so what happens is, back to this we agnostics ideas being like the second step, right? Like step 2 does not have its own chapter. That's actually step 12. Sorry. But what happens is this sponsor who had given me this direction, right? Because it's the honesty that I need to learn how to embellish, just the open-mindedness, right? And so he would give me this prayer. And I was sitting in this man's like house, and I'm like, like God, like give me a new experience to have an open mind. And he's like correcting me with prayer. Like, no. Like it's important, right, baby boy, you have to ask Creator to give you like an open mind in order to have a new experience, right? And so I'm full of resistance by nature. First of all, let me share this. My name is Jermaine. I'm an alcoholic, but alcoholism is really my problem. My problem is really alcoholism, right? If I tell you I'm an alcoholic, that's seen through my behavior. That's all that means. But alcoholism is the vessel that keeps me, right, in everlasting ignorance, closed-minded, right? Shut off from all spiritual beliefs and concepts. Shout out to Appendix 2. And so the step 2 thing, right? So I'm praying with this dude, and like I tell you, like I'm very attentive and I love the literature. And I'm sitting my first time in the steps with this man, right? Sponsor guy. And I'm like, self is telling self. Did y'all catch that? I didn't say God was speaking to me. I said self was telling self, well, why is he giving you this stuff and you can't find this stuff in the big book? Because some of that stuff, you can turn certain pages and see it verbatim. But step 2 is like this big like area of like your own experience. It says come to believe. It doesn't tell me when. It does not tell me when. And so I had to learn how to devolve some of these ideologies around here because it's not my job to beat the people I'm working with to believe in God. It's my position to allow them to have their own God experience. And that's what we agnostic does. If you really read it contextually, they're not selling you God. These people were atheists and agnostics who had an experience with God. Because it's part of what we do, right? We just don't. Anyway, look. So I'm praying. And this man gives me some of the craziest directions. Look, I'm new. First time ever in the work. He says, write down your ideas about God. What you think God is. What you need God to be. And I'm like, in my mind, there's no way he's telling me to do this. Like I told him I'm coming here with religion, right? And so I follow suggestions as we should be doing, and some of them, not all, some. And I go and I do the writing assignments. And I had a powerful experience following direction I knew was not outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you catch that? I had a profound experience. And the man who had these ideas and tenets of religion began to get rearranged, right? And that was that guy rolling the H and went to go see my guy, you know what I'm saying, Carl Jung out there, right? Shout out to Carl Jung, right? Talking about these vital spiritual experiences, man, these ideas, right? These emotions, they get cast aside. And there's something, it's a rearrangement. And it was happening in real time. And there was some stuff I didn't have to like sit and really like run and tell people off the mountaintop. I had to experience it. And I'm writing these ideas down on paper, right? And it started to happen to me automatically. And I'm like, God needs to be this is what God is, and this is what God isn't, and blah, 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 blah. God needs to be A, B, C, D. All right, we can increase that, let's add infinitum. And something came upon me, right? And I'm sitting by myself in the park, right? People are in the community doing what they do, but like it's me, it's pen and paper, and something came upon me and said, if the God that you served, if those ideas about God worked, right? What happened here in this list? And that floored me. That floored me. That floored me. And that began this process. That is what started truly me being receptive to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was something intuitively understood that I did not create that experience in that park. I can't create that, right? And so what happens is over time, my God idea shifts. It evolves. It becomes more fluid, right? Less rigid. And I'm like, I don't know how many years in recovery and sitting in so many meetings, hearing so many shares, you know, judging people and chopping people down from misquoting the book. And I'm like, that's not what the book means. All this stuff in my mind, right? A moment happened. And it was like, what if God is everything you think God isn't? What if God is everything you think God isn't, Jermaine? Maybe God, creator, needs to be all these other, religions and all these experiences for other people, for them to come to believe in a power greater than themselves. See, because I don't believe lack of power is my dilemma. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me, trigger alert, I'm going to speak about violence from a place of love or a place of visual. But if I punch the man hard enough, he might fall. That's power. And see, when I'm young, I see stuff like that, right? So the idea of power needs to be shifted. The idea of power needs to be rearranged because I didn't understand the power lives inside of me. I come in here believing that, creators in the sky, they're talking about, God don't strike me down, right? So what I'm attaching to the God idea is no longer serving me. I've had that experience here in Alcoholics Anonymous, knowing it's not in the big book. And so, like I say, so what happens is, man, I like step 1 and 2 to kind of reside together, but for step 2 and 3 purposes, we're going to talk about that. And so what happens is, so when I come to believe, there is an understanding, there is an awareness, right, from within, through a lot of my own experiences, right, that something needs to be addressed. And so the spiritual malady is interesting, right? Because I'm defining words from my sponsor, and for me, the spiritual malady is not much my problem as I think it is, right? Because there's some things I don't have the power to change. I'm prejudiced, I'm biased, right? I'm not racist, I'm prejudiced, I'm biased, I'm full of resistance. I don't have the fortitude to change these things. So what happens is I'm looking at the insanity, And the book talks about the subtle insanities, right? The curious mental phenomenon, right? There's all these pieces, these parts of my identity and my behavior, my thinking that I don't have the power to change, right? Because I try almost every imaginable remedy. But when I come to believe, man, I got to look at, okay, what's insane for me? Oh, that I can manage my life. That's the core of my insanity. That I can manage my life with all this information. I read wordy books, I get into windy arguments. But I ended up here in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't get here on a winning streak. So I have to be able to be taught how to consider from a place of non-judgment, right? Even though people talk crazy and all this other weird stuff, I gotta learn how to not let that penetrate so deeply, but learn how to receive it, man, because it might be useful. And so what I saw in step 2 is okay, that God idea didn't work for me. And I started to kind of resonate with what you people believed in. It wasn't all you people. A few of you people got my attention. And I was like, well, damn, that dude said he did what? And he lives like this? And people was coming in here talking about how they had all these weird thoughts of self-harm, things of that nature, and they were standing in their community tall, they were kicking ass at life, and I'm like, dude, that dude's lame. That never happens like that, right? But the subtle insanity is at JERMAINE, how did you get to Alcoholics Anonymous? And in the beginning, I would have had a lot of excuses that seemed plausible. But for me to tell you that I got here because of my thinking, yeah, alcohol is a problem, we get that. But when I'm removed from alcohol, what does my life look like? Relationships, finances, resentment, right? All this other stuff I'm not going to try to dive into. So step 2 is I had to come to understand. And I'm like, yo, what seemed to be a flimsy reed, man? What seemed to be a flimsy reed. When I called that stuff luck, when I call that stuff being witty, being cunning and sly and cool and hip, right? It's like, dude, you're here because of grace, man. You're here because of grace. If you done some of the things I've done and hung with some of the people I hung with, I have no reason being in this space. I don't, right? I wasn't the baddest guy on earth, but some things I did were incomprehensible and they were just wrong, right? But I'm here by God's grace. And so what happens is I begin to, I'm going to say it this way. The process allowed me to be open-minded to the God concept. And so with that, man, I get to the step 3, and I like how the book talks about, this is what the book talks about. May I read from the book? Is that okay?
We wish you would.
What? So we read this almost in every meeting, right? How it works, right? Chapter 5, right? This is where step 3 kind of gets, more present, right? And so we read that, we read all, read it, and it says that being convinced, right? So what does that look like for me? I have to be convinced, right? I don't have the fortitude to stay convinced, right? Did you catch that? Right? Because see, alcoholism is very powerful, right? See, my mind is a power greater than me, literally. Right, it gives me fear. It creates delusion. Right, it creates. Anybody have ever had deja vu? This comes from my mind. Right, so I'm not really as clear on what power really looks like, right, or a power greater than me, right? But my mind, right. So what happens is being convinced, right, and that's through the understanding, coming to believe, right. We're at step 3, and so life in our will, and sponsor man is right, first time ever in the work. He's like, you know what that means? And I'm like, it says my life and my will, my will and my life. He said, man, that's your thinking and your actions. He said, that's your thinking and that is your actions, right? And I'm like, okay, so then we have these requirements that any life on self-will can hardly be a success. Now, if you're like me, you kind of got an idea of self-will run riot, because the book says I'm an extreme example of that, right? But for me to really believe that, right? For me to really 1,000% believe that, that's difficult for a guy like me, right? Because I will tell you verbatim, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to God, right? But I got these reservations. And I don't have the power to understand that I have reservations until I get someone like you people to help me understand, what the core of my truth is, right? And so they're talking about I'm the guy, look, I'm kind, I'm considerate, I'm patient, I'm generous, but I got very traits, right? And I start to kind of see this, right, in my life. Not in drinking, That's a limited construct. That's limited. But in my life, I'm seeing that I have these very traits. And it's like, oh, well, maybe my life is really unmanageable. And like Silky talks about, right? Like I try to solve this dilemma, and then like it comes so overwhelming that I run back to the bar. And I'm like, yo, that's insane, right? When I'm trying to fix people, I'm trying to change experiences, I'm trying to rearrange outcomes, right? And I do this over and over, and then I come in here crazy as hell, thinking that I don't have a problem. I saw that as the insanity. I saw that as the insanity, right? And it talks about like, oh man, as a person in here, I'd love to hear talk about this. I'm the victim of my own delusion. I'm a victim of my own delusion, right? I was like, wait, this language penetrated me. I'm like, wait, I had never heard it this way, right? I didn't think I had a problem as an alcoholic, but I'm like, damn, like I am self-will. And I'm seeing myself in treatment, bouncing off walls in treatment and doing all this other stuff I had no business doing and whatever. But I'm like, have I been really trying to manage my life? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? And I was like, oh, it just hit me. And then it says this, is he not even in his best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony? And was critical in my best moments. When I'm trying to perform well, the actor, the director, I'm the guy over there that's the DJ guy, right? Like I'm the guy with the party favors. Like I take on all these roles of this experience, and I expect you guys to behave accordingly, and I don't give you the manuscript. And I'm offended. I'm offended because you're supposed to know how I think without me letting you know. And it kind of reinforces that step 2 thing. It's like, Jermaine, like you're crazy. You're crazy. Man. Yo, so that's the thing, man. Talk about above else, right? I got to be rid of the selfishness. And Daniel's one of my favorite speakers about step 3, man. It's like, yo, like I'm selfish to the core. I live in my mind all the time. When I get up in the morning, it's not like, okay, let me pray to God. It's like, yo, running on my own self-will. I'm like, let me get up and check these emails. Let me see who didn't text me, right? Because I'm important, you know what I'm saying? And it's a joke, which is rooted in a lot of truth. Like, I thought I was really like God's gift to humanity, especially women, like, you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't utter that, but I would walk in that, right? And I'm the guy that in treatment, right, I had like this high pride, but I had like low self-esteem. Fucking chameleon, man. Trying to blend in. You know what I mean? And that for me is even insane. It's like my mind will tell me, like, oh, I know what you're thinking about me, but I haven't asked you, and because I know, I'm gonna try to do A, B, and C instead. You know what I'm saying? An example that was so powerful was like, and I was my first time going through the work, because I had an experience. I heard a word called transformative. That was my true experience with the 12 steps. And I would sit with sponsor, man, and I would just like, he'd be like, what's going on? And I'd be like, running down the experience of treatment. And the number one would be like, oh, that dude, like Johnny, fucking guy, right? Like this dude, you know, he thinks he's somebody. I watch us get down, like, dude, I wish the motherfucker would, and blah, 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 blah. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, and sponsor would be sitting there just quiet. Like he was super cool. Like, and he would be thinking on how to present like information in question form, right? And you would think after week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would kind of learn his strategy, but nah, dude, like, nah, I'm selfish, right? And self-centered, right? It's all about me. Like that motherfucker, like I spoke to him and like he didn't speak, and he just be like, dude, like, did it dawn on you that Johnny didn't hear you say good morning, bro? Like, and I'm like, yo. The subtle insanities, man. Like, that was my true experience, man. Like, this is how much I had to dummy down, right? And truthfully, it happened to me. Like, I didn't come in here, like, willing with arrows up in me. It was like, nah, I come in here like alcoholic. Me? Never. What? Because my mind tends to remember the times that I can control. That's the great obsession. I don't think about liquor and substances. It's like, dude, like, I can control and manage this thing. But we know that no real alcoholic, that's what the book says, ever regains control. You know what I'm saying? So look, man, this is the how and why of it, right? It says, first of all, we have to quit playing God. And I know that sounds simple and understandable in layman's terms. It sounds simple and understandable. But I've been around for a few summers. I read the book, a time or two. I've been sponsored by, 5 or 6 people. And I got a sponsor right now that is up my ass. It's like, dude, you don't have to call me every day about everything, right? But like she does. She does. Instead of me just like, motherfucker, do this. It's like, nah, what do you think you should do? Right? What is Spirit speaking to you? What is your true experience, young lady? Have you tried this before, and has that happened that way, like you want it to happen? What can you do differently? Have you prayed and meditated on this? Can I give you an example, right? It's not about her, but so she gets into a situationship, right? She wanted a relationship, and she gets into it, right? She gets somebody, and then she calls one day, and she's like overly overwhelmed by it. Like, he wants me to be present, and I got to do this, I got to work, I got to study, and blah, blah, blah. And we're exploring. And at the end of all this frustration, she says, you know what, I'm gonna just let God solve it. I said, wait. Did you pray before you made your decision to get into the situationship? Did you bring God into this? And she's like, fuck. She's like, no. I said, well, why bring God into it now? It was only a question I asked, right? Because I got to go deep down within. See, the deep spiritual experiences, right, it's not in the coffee. It's not in the commitment. People help me, really go deep down within, man, and gain access to something that I didn't know was even achievable. And so when I quit playing God around here, I have to literally quit playing God. The book says we avoid hysterical advice, man. I'm like, look, you want to go do that? Go do that. It might not be a good idea. Go do that. Because you might need to have that experience to get closer to God. And because I 100% don't know yes or no to that experience, I have to pull it into consideration. I'm just saying. But look, man, this is the how and why of it. First of all, I got to quit playing God because it didn't work. I got convinced. Through leadership, which we call sponsorship, through spiritual, guidance, we call sponsors, other friends, closed-mouth friends in the rooms. Man, I get guided, man, and it didn't work, right? And dude, Dano, right? Oh, I love this, right? I'll dump some stuff on Dano, and he'd be like, nah, dude, you're gonna cause her harm, right? I'd be like, in my mind, man, fuck you, bro. What? I'm her solution, right? But because, right, he's a closed-mouth friend, I'm able to get really honest. And he knows intuitively, Jermaine, that's and I'll be upset. But his voice resonates, right? I don't create that on my own around here, man. But this is what it is, man. Next, we decided, right? The step 3 stuff, a decision. It says, we decided, right? That in the here, right, after in this drama of life, God was going to be our new director. He is the principal, we are his agents. He is the father, we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone, right, of which a new and triumphant arch through which we pass, right, to freedom. So I have this former sponsor, man. He's talking about the triumphant arch. He's really big. He's a nerd. He's geeks out. He's the arch is something's being built, right? Something is being built, right? And when I'm new, I'm gonna tell you, oh yeah, boom, 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 and I'm gonna shoot off these definitions from Merriam-Webster's. But the truth is, man, this is spiritual in nature. The arch is spiritual. It's like a portal that I pass into, right? And I don't know when or where it is, but for me, what happens is, in hindsight, I understand that I've experienced it. The rearrangement does happen around here. Listen, if you got a long time around here and you got a spiritual sickness, look, maybe you do. But I don't see that in step 3, man. This is what it talks about. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. Now, I don't know what that looks like, man. Today, I can tell you that. But when I'm new, man, I had a lot of answers to questions, man. Right? Because alcoholism don't die because I have long-term separation. And so it says, being all powerful, he provided what I needed. It says, if I kept close to him and performed his work well. What does that even mean? Like, I don't know if you understand, man. I have low tolerance to ignorance, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, this is can we be honest? That's one of the principles we should be talking about around here, right? And what happens is, right, I don't have the volition. I don't have the autonomy to change or alter my defects of my character, these growths or handicaps. It happens to me. It happens to me. And the guy who was in treatment, just antsy and just irritable, like, is some compassion begin to happen. And like, I hear a voice like, Jermaine, maybe that person asking that dumb question because they don't know the answer to it. Because I ask questions I don't know the answer to. But there's something that happens to me, right? So performing his work well, man, looks like I'm gonna be nice to a bunch of folks I don't wanna be nice to. To the best of my ability, I'm willing. See, willingness, look. Oh my God, that's danger. That's danger. Willingness can be set up for disaster, right? I think I'm okay. I can parry a punch, right? And my beliefs, yeah. I know that Mike Tyson will beat me up any given Sunday. See, but under the lash of Jermaine, I will still try to fight Mike Tyson, right? Because of core beliefs, right? And so I'm willing, right? And that's dangerous, right? So what happens is I have to shift my willingness into what is my ability. I'm able. I don't know the outcomes, right? But here's the thing, man. Like, I'm going to sponsor people I don't want to sponsor. I'm going to go to meetings I don't want to go to. I'm going to sit on committees. I'm going to take commitment. I'm going to be nice to my neighbor. Like, one of my current things that's kind of been resolved is like my neighbor and the parking situation. Right? And like, this thing is so cold, right? Alcoholism, right? It's so cold. I pulled up one day and my mind told me something, like this dude went into my car and nothing was missing. Nothing was out of place, out of order, but he went into my car. And when I tell you, he came out of his house and I'm working on my car and I heard his front door and I'm like under the hood. Oh shit, got him. And I walked down this man's driveway. And he went to the dumpster, which is in the corner of his driveway, and I positioned myself where he had to walk by me. So I just forced him to have a conversation, right? Resentment. I'm walking through the house for 2 days. No praying involved. Didn't bring God into the experience. I'm fuming with resentment. And when we had the conversation, he looked at me and like, he said that, it's not funny, but it is. He was like, yeah, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do that. And I'm like, I believe you, but what about blah, 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 blah? And he was like, look, dude, I'm going to go run the cameras for you, man. He said, you're looking so confused. I'm going to go run the cameras for you. And I don't get out with this guy like this. Like, we just speak and that's it. And what happened, we got to the core of it, and it wasn't even him. You know what I'm saying? And then that process, I know this is not step 9, but I was able to amend something that happened with him and my brother a lot of years prior. I inherently took on their stuff. If that makes sense. By default. And I was able to resolve that. This is step 3 into like the 9. Like, I don't know what God's work is. Am I being a better demonstration of these principles? Am I? Am I trying to let people know silently that AA works? Am I trying silently to represent the process of recovery to the best of my ability, man, without having to wear a badge or insignia or tell you, yeah, we're sober, motherfucker, we kick your ass, come fuck with us? Because we are anonymous. We're anonymous. But look, man, I call it some of the third step promises, man. When I'm on such a footing, man, I became less and less interested in Jermaine. Altruism is a part of our solution around here. It's spiritual in nature, but it's rooted in altruism. It's an unselfish concern around here, man. That chronic relapser is my equal. That old timer who wants to like press his beliefs and his knowledge about all the books he read about AA and like Dr. Bob's great uncle and neighbor and all that stuff, like that's my equal too. That person that comes in here, I cannot stand. Yeah, man. But it says that we become less interested in Jermaine and my plans and my designs. More and more, I became interested in seeing what I can contribute to life, right? It says, as I felt new power. Like, do we read this stuff? New power. No, new power. And so, like, I hyper fixate on like words, like definitions. I link things together in the book. It's just something that happened to me. So it's like, so the old power I gained access to got to be rearranged and got to be planted somewhere else. And so the new power is this new God concept. And I don't know what year it happened, man, but for me, like I know like this is 2025. We're going to keep the outside issues hopefully outside. But like my God carries no gender. My God is spirit. My God is spirit. And it's ubiquitous. It's ubiquitous. So when I'm out in nature, like last night, and I see like, you know, like these animals and stuff, that's the confirmation that God exists. When I see humanity, man, that's confirmation that God is present. Am I able to connect to the God that you serve or you believe in? Or am I blocked off by spiritual tenets? You know, call them finite constructs of God, man. My God doesn't sit in 12 or 24 principles. My God is infinite in principle. I've had experiences that I did not ask for that have happened to me and through me, man. When I know I want to do something, I really resent this guy. And or my favorite one, the relationship stuff. And I'm resenting her, like, you know what I'm saying? But like, Jermaine, you took you into that experience. She didn't ask for that. You know what I'm saying? But look, man, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoy peace of mind, as we discover we can face life successfully, these are the promises, right? As we became conscious of his presence. Appendix 2 is my favorite passage. Something happens to me on a conscious level. The awareness, the understanding, right? The demonstration. Something happens, you know what I mean? How much time do I have, bro? I feel like I'm talking forever. A lot?
Yeah, you got like 25 minutes left.
All right, let's do it. We began to lose, our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. So it says we were reborn. Now, this is just my personal situation. Like, I didn't feel the breeze of, like, you know, the mountaintop blow past me when I did this, my first third step. But when I saw sincerely took such a position, my first time ever, I didn't go right into step 3 prayer. I sat with this. I sat with this information. And I had to question self, right? Like, do you really, really want to do this? Like, do you really want to take this on, Jermaine? Because I was afraid. Like, this is designed for living, obviously, right? And like, I didn't know how to live. And it's like, dude, like, what do I do, right? I stood at the fucking turning point. And I sat with this about maybe 3, 4, 5 days. And I'm like, dude, the steps? I'm like, dude, I can just go get a job. Like, the steps? Like, I can go get into a relationship, you know what I'm saying? That sounds like a great idea, right? We like logic. We still like it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to think my way out of this thing, man. And I sat one day in that same park, and I looked up at the sky, and I'm like this. Yo, like, this better work. I know no other way. This better work. And I was sincere when I uttered these words. Because at the time, I was living in a treatment center. I didn't get asked to show up to. I had some tails on me, like child support, like DMV. I had like the state of California writing me. You know what I'm saying? I come in here with tails, man. And I just wanted my life to get better. I wanted to be a better person. Like, I knew there was part of me that there was something not okay with me, but I didn't have the words to label and address it. I just didn't without the help of you people here in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know what I'm saying? And I did this third step prayer. And I can tell you that my life today is insanely, insanely blessed, and it's good. And it's not good because, you know, everything's great and like God is fine and AA is beautiful. It's like, no, Jermaine, like, here's the truth. Shit happens. Stuff happens around here that do not go in my favor. Right? Like relationships, finances. Dude, I was fired from a job, man. I was like, it wasn't even my fault. And like Sponsor Man had this cool gift of like, do you want to be right or do you want to be free, Jermaine? I could have gone to corporate and did all this weird stuff and like, compile and blame and defend. And I was like, yo, all right, God, I'm trusting you with this. And that's the freedom we get around here, man. I'm not caught in self as much. So what the book does, it gives me this prayer. And I like how it talks about freedom from the bondage of self. Now, this part of the prayer for me was huge because I'm seeing it. And I'm like, wait, God is the solution. Like, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm hearing people talk about how alcohol is the problem, which is not the book's message. But then step 3 is like freedom from bondage of self. So then it kind of reinforces that lack of power is my true dilemma. Any life without self-will can hardly be a success. I'm selfish to the core, right? And I'm like, I start to understand, yes, Jermaine, you are the problem. Step 3, I'm the problem, and I don't know how to turn this thing over. So I don't know, man. I'm just grateful, man. I do step 3 prayer a lot in my personal life, outside of this room, outside of AA. And for me, it's like a reset button. Like no matter what's going on in my life, I do a third step prayer because I have to remember, man, it's not about me, it's about my demonstration, right? One of the beautiful things around here is like, dude, like my son has learned the serenity prayer. And I was the guy that's like, I'm never bringing my kids here, right? I'm like, dude, like what? Why do I bring my kids here? I prided myself in that. That changed. I started leaving a lot of women alone around here in these rooms and outside the rooms. Step 3 stuff, right? Because like I'm no longer the director. Like I don't steal from any of my employers, which is bizarre, right? And if you're not clear, I was taught that if I take anything without permission, it's stealing. That's just right. Like no real talk. Like that for me was powerful. I was like, yo, I never thought of it like that. Step 3 stuff, man. The peace of mind is real. The peace of mind is real. Like, the peace of mind is real. Bill talks about that in his story, man, that this thing is wonderful. It's indescribably wonderful as time passes. You know what I'm saying? And it does not mean that I walk through life and I'm unscathed. It's like, no, like, my reaction to life is profound. Like, when I know you're 100% wrong, and I just say, oh, okay, cool. All right, you know what I'm saying? One of the most, look, I got a guy, Aaron H., man. He's out here in Orange County, man. Powerful guy, man. I heard this guy share one day in a meeting. He closed his share one time like, hey, man, he came with this beautiful, like, share. It was spiritual. And he's like, if your sponsor has said anything other than what I'm talking about, he's like, I'm wrong. I'm like, yo, that's deep. Right? Like the true act of humility. And it's not anything that I can, like, create. See, the delusion is that I can manage my life, man, and I can make things happen the way they're supposed to be. But, like, real talk, man, I don't know how to, people, I'm humbled. Damn, how you do that? Like, I got alcoholism. It's relentless. It allows me to not be humbled. This is why I have the steps. You know what I'm saying? I come in and see someone in a meeting, I'm like, oh, this fucking guy, man. Like, I go a whole different direction, man, because I'm irritable. Because I'm biased. I can't see as a loving child of God. Not without the principles of recovery, man. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I want to share something. Dude, I feel like I've been talking for way too long. There's my phone right here. Step 3 stuff, right? And this is like, it's in the big book. It's 9-1, verse 64, so don't crucify me from the podium, please. This is what it says, man. I started to work on the steps, and even with my difficulty over the 3rd step and the God concept, I began to develop a sense of trust in the AA group and in the ideals of the fellowship as a manifestation of a power greater than myself. Did you catch that? Even with difficulty, something still activates itself in my life presently right now, right? Although for many years I did not come to an acceptance of a God who intervened personally and directly in the lives of individuals, I was able to accept the idea of a force that moved in the rooms and animated AA. Members with the sense of unconditional love. That satisfied my spiritual needs for a long time. So what are your spiritual needs? You want to be rich, successful, popular? My favorite one, you want to be liked and respected? Yeah, keep working this program. You'll find out some new truths. That nothing has to change for me to be okay. Nothing has to change for me to be okay. And so this third step, when I make a decision, when I was taught that the decision is not just made intellectually, conceptually, it's rooted in my actions. And so what happens is, like, once I follow the suggestions, which are rooted in actions, right, then my view upon things begin to shift into a better perception. You know, dude, I'm going to close my share with this. Somewhere I had heard that it's easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking than to think yourself into a new way of acting, right? And this made sense in the context of acting as if, right? So if you're new, welcome. You know, if you're an old-timer, man, welcome. Like, listen, if you're here and, like, if you're still spiritually sick, we do have a solution to that, right? It's outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm saying that from my own truth and my experience. If I'm telling you that I have the Spirit of God in me, and if God comes from spirit and I'm also spiritually sick, then logic is that God is sick. And if my God is sick, my God can't help me. Does that make sense? I'm not challenging anyone's beliefs, like, you know, directly. It's a consideration of this for me, because we claim spiritual progress. We claim spiritual progress. And my sponsor was like, yo, claim it. How do I do that? With the help of you people here in Alcoholics Anonymous, by getting a sponsor when I don't want to, by following suggestions when I don't want to, right? A lot of prayer, meditation, right? Because God's voice sounds just like mine. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone in here but me, but 16 years in, God's voice sounds just like mine. And God got some crazy ideas. Like, I need to rely on stuff outside of me for me to be well. And that's one of the greatest delusions I fall victim to with long-term sobriety if I'm not rooted into the process of recovery. Joel, dude, Donald, you're my brother for another mother. Yo, this guy right here, man, let me tell you something. Joel, I love you, man. Like, oh, I saw Joel, I wanted to cry, dude. Dude, you light me up, man. Your spirit, man, it lights me up. I get excited. There's other people in here too. Daniel, you my bro. I'm gonna close my share with this, man. Like, I love this man right here, man. It's been a long ride. Dude, we're doing some inventory stuff. Look, I'm gonna close on some healthy happiness. Like, I'm living in Wilmington, California. It's like 99.9% like Hispanic and Latino, right? And I'm like, dude, I gotta write some inventory. I need some help with this stuff. He's like, dude, I'm gonna come to your house. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, what? Right? Like, I live in Wilmington. And this dude is just so caught, like, right, in like the way that we live, designed for living. He's like, okay, cool, shoot me the Addy, bro, and I'm gonna pull up. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? And he showed up, helped me write inventory. You know what I'm saying? I disclosed some stuff later in my personal life, and he was just like, dude, like, giving me some advice. But I'm saying that to say that you've been nothing but a friend to me, man, at any and all costs. Like, he has a crazy story. I'm not going to share it. He has a crazy story about me, man, but he showed up for me in my life in many ways I can never imagine, man. And that's what it is here in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's something very special here. Listen, if you don't know why you come back here, don't just keep coming back. Just stay. Yeah. Just stay. Because the miracle is that it's not just my life that gets better. There's a radiance of recovery that affects people for good reasons when we follow the suggestions. And third step is that now that I have a new director, I don't know what the assignment is. I don't know what God's purpose is until I see it in hindsight. So acting as if, it helps me stay just ground level enough that when Creator is showing up in my life and giving me an assignment, I don't have to know what it is. I just do it. Does that make sense? And this is one of the greatest acts of humility, man, is that I cannot manufacture it. It has to happen to me. Appendix 2 talks about the newcomer. It says that we understand that it says we have tapped an unsuspected inner resource. When I'm a million miles away from a big book and things are going awry, what is my solution? When it's 2 o'clock in the morning and my sponsor should be sleeping or maybe working or whatever, what is my solution? When I'm going into a meeting and I'm full of resentment and pain and sorrow and resentment and XYZ, and the meetings are not satisfying my spiritual needs, what is my solution? If you as of yet have not found that answer, there's some people in here that are uniquely qualified to help you gain access to the Creator, whatever you may call it. Thank you, Dano. I love you, bro.
Don't leave before the miracle happens. There's still a couple minutes for some Q&A here. Page 46 does talk about like this ability of laying aside prejudice and expressing a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves. And as soon as we did that, we commenced to get results, even though we could not fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. And so there's some stuff going on in step 2 that we have just a few more minutes to consider asking questions. Step 3 questions. Victim of the delusion, he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of the world if only he manages well.
Thanks, Jermaine. That was awesome. The question that I have is, step 3, says, having made a decision, I turn my will and my life over to the care of God, which to me insinuates that I have to believe in somewhere in between step 2 and 3 that God's concerned enough with me to care for me. I'm a case builder, and before I had step 2 and 3 experiences, I built a case that God wasn't concerned with me, didn't want anything to do with me. So I'm curious, I guess my question is, like, what was that experience like for you? How did you come to believe that you could decide that God would care for you?
How did I decide that God was going to care for me?
Yeah, like how did your perception shift to start to believe that, to make the decision for the 3rd step?
How did my perception shift? Well, again, I don't have the volition to shift my perception. Like when we read the book, it talks about that, right? It's the psychic change, right? I can't produce it. It has to happen to me, right? So what happens is, like, I make a decision. Like I say, I had paused for some days because I had to consider, because I don't know the outcomes, right? And if anybody knows God, like, if you got God's phone number, like, please, I need that. You know what I'm saying? Right? So it's like, I was sincere when I took a position about what was happening with the work, and then the action, right? I don't tell God, hey, God, like, here's my life and my will. My action confirms that. Following the suggestions, my demonstration is the testament that I'm willing, right? And I'm trying to be able to have this experience that people said that we have around here, because when I'm new, I don't understand the fullness of what recovery has to offer, because I think I could just abstain. And shout out to who was that? That was earlier. Like, abstinence only treats the physical allergy, not the main problem. The main problem is my thinking. And I can think my way, right, into or out of a God box because I have alcoholism. Right? Did I answer your question? So it's the actions that confirms that I'm actually working the program. It's not the lip service. It's not the aesthetics of who I am in the rooms.
I guess the question is more,
Bless you.
once that happened, looking back on your past, did you see that maybe God was always there and that helped with it, or just moving forward, building a relationship with God after making the decision? Curious.
Yes. Okay, so the book talks about we have agnostic temperament, which is my behavior. Right? Even with a God idea, a God concept, what helped me saw that step 2, that step 2 experience so powerful, because I saw that my behavior is very agnostic, although I profess God. So it's like, well, how can you, say you have all of this, but your actions don't equate what you say you believe in? And I saw that was a double standard, which helped keep my life unmanageable, right? So the understanding for me is always in hindsight. I can tell you God is A, B, and C, and God wants me to be blah, 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 but it's like the truth is I don't know. So when I look back upon my experiences, right, no matter how far down the scale that we go, we'll see how our experiences can do what? benefit other people. So that's why in step 3, like, I don't really know the outcomes, right? Because the truth is, I might be going through some stuff that has nothing to do with me whatsoever, right? But the understanding for me happens only in hindsight, if that makes sense. So when God say God is ubiquitous, it's like we know that, man, we've been here for a long time, right? And we can debate the God idea all day long, but there's evidence that there is a power, right? Whether it was gravity is real, it's an immutable law, right? What governs that? So you know what I mean? So God is not just the spiritual self. God is also third dimensional as well. And learning how to like kind of be open-minded to understand that for me as a human person, right, God has to exist because I didn't ask to be born, but I am here. If that makes sense? Okay.
Okay, what's your experience with the lay-aside prayer?
So here's my truth. I'm sorry, where are you? Oh, okay, there you are. So here's my truth, right? So again, like I knew that was not a prayer from the big book. And I can tell you where it comes from historically, right? I learned that later in the rooms. But initially I was like, this ain't a big book prayer. Because step 3 is like, it's there. You can turn to an actual page and see it. And I was like full of resistance, right? But I followed the direction. And like I say, sponsor man, and I was trying to study and learn it, and I was misquoting it. And when he said to me, because I would get it out of order, he says, you have to ask Creator to give you an open mind in order to have a new experience. He said, you can't have a new experience before you have an open mind. And that penetrated. I was like, that makes sense. So I held on to the value of reciting prayers that I did not want to recite because I don't know how they're going to be useful to me, right? And if I come in here shut off, like Appendix 2, there's a bar that keeps a man like me in everlasting ignorance. That's contempt prior to investigation. And that keeps my life unmanageable because I don't, fuck that. But the prayer, look, there's power in prayer, and there's also equal power in action that supplements or equates to prayer. If that makes sense?
Okay, let's hear it again for Jermaine.